Now today we will once again take a look at a certain group of enemies in order to find out what their deal is and why we want them dead. And this time we will look at the Yiga, who actually have quite an interesting story. Certainly a more complex one than the Gerudo, which we did the last time. By the way, you can watch that video later on if you want. You can find it in the upper right corner. But now we will look at this weird new clan that we saw for the very first time ever in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now let's dive right in. As we all know, this story started an incredibly long time ago, 10,000 years before the events of Breath of the Wild, in a time where the world of Hyrule was filled with conflict. An evil entity known as Calamity Ganon had appeared and terrorized the lands, which obviously wasn't a good thing for everyone there. Luckily enough, the mighty Sheikah, who have served the royal family of Hyrule for centuries, came up with a solution. They created all kinds of marvelous machines like guardians that could shoot lasers, and even huge robots known as divine beasts who were specifically made to defeat Calamity Ganon. And thanks to this, they actually won, and Hyrule was saved once again. But then, things went horribly wrong. After helping out with defeating Calamity Ganon, the ancient Sheikah technology was at first praised as the power of the gods. And people were quite happy with it. However, over time, the people of Hyrule began to fear their technology as a threat to the kingdom. And so, as a result of all of this, the Sheikah became outcasts and lived in exile. And they were actually forced to abandon their technological ways. And although most Sheikahs chose to cast off their technology and live simple lives and stay in contact with the kingdom, others fostered hatred towards the kingdom of Hyrule for shunning the Sheikah despite all they had done for it, leading them to swear allegiance to Ganon. And this resulted in the creation of the Yiga clan, who dedicate themselves to eliminating all who stand against Ganon. And so they adopted the upside down sign of the Sheikah and set up their base of operations within Kurusa Valley in the Gerudo Desert. From there, the Yiga clan would attack and strike down anyone who even thought negatively of them or Calamity Ganon. And of course, they would specifically target members of the Sheikah, the Hyrulean army, and the royal family. In the end, the clan gained a notorious reputation for cruelty, with some even regarding the organization as pure evil. For example, they used underhanded tactics to gain information, recruit, or simply murder in cold blood. However, some, such as Kato, see the organization as lost souls who were being manipulated by Calamity Ganon, and simply saw them as useful pawns to further his own goals of destroying Hyrule and the world beyond it. So clearly they can be a real problem, and the cause they fight for is sort of understandable, but not completely. While they certainly were betrayed by the Hylians in a way, because they made the machines that saved them and that stuff could also be used to make everyone's life a lot easier, their actions of attacking the kingdom and teaming up with Calamity Ganon are completely unacceptable. And even years upon years later, after all of this, they continued with their attacks on the ones who betrayed them so long ago. According to Zelda's diary, the Yiga clan were active 100 years ago, shortly before the events of the Great Calamity seen in Breath of the Wild. And at some point they even attempted to assassinate the princess before she could awaken her sealing powers, which were a great threat to Calamity Ganon's return. In the end, it was Link who saved her from this attack, which can also be seen in one of the game's memories. And something similar to this would happen once again when Zelda was taking a walk with her Bosa. And around the same time, the Yiga were plotting to resurrect Ganon and were making plans to steal the Thunder Helm from Gerudo Town, implying that the organization may have played a key role in Ganon's return to Hyrule, which they probably did. I mean, games like Age of Calamity also hint towards this. And as time went on, the return of Calamity Ganon was inevitable, and so the Yiga started to launch more and more attacks. And even after Link died and Zelda sealed away Ganon in Hyrule Castle, they didn't stop whatsoever. Once Link was out there in the world again, they attempted to take him out by disguising themselves as traveling merchants and surprise attacking Link. And of course their goal was to kill the hero, so he couldn't go to Hyrule Castle to save Princess Zelda, defeat Calamity Ganon, and save saved the entire world. Now clearly the story of the Yiga is a bit complex and not black and white at all, which was also the case with the Gerudo. They aren't necessarily evil. They have reasons for everything they are doing, even though what they are doing is certainly extreme. 10,000 years ago, they put everything in their machines, and those defended the kingdom effectively. Thousands upon thousands of people were saved from a horrible fate at the hands of Ganon and his minions. To be honest, they should have been treated as heroes. Maybe even the biggest in the history of the kingdom, aside from the hero and princess, of course. But in the end, the people that they actually saved turned against them. And so the beautiful machines they made were outlawed. They weren't allowed to use those anymore and had to abandon them completely, even though it could improve life in so many ways. But in the end, they were forced to do this. It wasn't really a choice. And understandably, a lot of Sheikah were angry. And so this new group known as the Yiga was created and attacked anyone who was in their way. In a way, it was revenge. Well, that's how it started. And as time went on, the original goal became more and more vague. They just became evil. All of that happened 10,000 years ago after all, and they are still angry about it. So clearly they have lost their way a bit. But on the other hand, the arguments of the Hylians were also quite valid. Sure, the technology of the Sheikah saved them, but it could also be incredibly dangerous. Thanks to those stupid powerful machines and weapons, they were a threat to the Kingdom of Hyrule. If the Sheikah wanted, they could have easily defeated the Knights of Hyrule and take over the entire kingdom. And we have seen this in the game actually. When Calamity Ganon returns 100 years prior to the events of Breath of the Wild, the people of Hyrule try to defeat him using the ancient Sheikah technology. They had done so before and it was a huge success. So why not try it again? Well, there was actually a reason. And in the end, all of this went horribly wrong. Apparently, Calamity Ganon learned from its previous defeat. Using its nigh limitless power, it killed the pilot champions, took over the Guardians and Divine Beasts, and nearly killed Link. And so in the end, the Sheikah technology was used to destroy the kingdom, and they had no chance at all. The entire army was beaten, and even all the other races like the Zoras, Gerudos, and Gorons didn't stand a chance against these mechanical monsters. So clearly the people of Hyrule had a valid point. Those machines were dangerous, and this is just one way it could have gone wrong. Just imagine what would have happened if the Sheikah became evil and used it to take over the world, or some other group would come along and do something similar to this. So, clearly, in the end, we want them dead because they were a threat to us, which escalated to what we see in the game. A group of Sheikah that became more pacifist, and another that resisted and became more and more radical over time, and so they have to be dealt with. However, now that we completely understand the whole scenario and why we want them dead, we can take a look at how successful we have been when it comes to that job. Now, like I said before, the Yiga clan was created about 10,000 years ago, and has been active ever since, operating from their weird little desert hiding place, terrorizing the people of Hyrule while staying in the shadows as much as possible. Clearly, people like Link and the allies of the Hyrule Kingdom, such as the Sheikah, have been doing their best to take them out. But in the last 10,000 years, they have never been defeated completely, and have always returned. Now, when we looked at the Gerudo, we found out that in almost all timelines they died out, and were nowhere to be found in the world, which was probably the case because the Hylians did a fantastic job at hunting them down and getting rid of them. However, when it comes to the Yiga clan, it's not that easy, and that's mostly because they are some sort of ninjas. They can hide in plain sight, attack certain targets without drawing attention, teleport from one place to another, and so much more. This makes them really hard to defeat, capture, and also track down, which just wasn't the case when it came to the Gerudo. And even their base is filled to the brim with Yiga warriors, traps, alarms, hidden pathways, gates, and way more. And all of this makes it hard to infiltrate, and probably because of that, they have never fallen, and still live in their little desert hideout, terrorizing the people of Hyrule. And to be honest, I'm not sure if we will ever be successful in getting rid of them. But hey, at least we learned something today. The reason why we want them dead, which is quite a good one. Although I will say the Yiga are also a bit of a victim. Sure, they are radical, weird, and insane, but they certainly got the short end of the stick. But hey, that's nothing new. The royal family of Hyrule is not always the hero, or even the good guy. So I hope we all learned something from this. Sure, we want them dead and we should kill them off, but life is not black and white. Usually, it's an ugly grey, especially when it comes to how the royal family treats certain people. But before you go, be sure to click in the upper right corner to watch the previous video we did on why we want the Gerudo dead. And if you don't feel like doing that, then first of all, sad me, and secondly, at least give this video a like, click that subscribe button, and also the bell. And leave some suggestions in the comments down below for other things I could potentially cover in the future.